It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So, my friends, let's continue the journey on getting facts of what's happening in the state of Pennsylvania. If you watched one of my shows currently running with the mayor, he filled you in on what's happening in the greater Hazleton area. And now let's find out what's happening in the state of Pennsylvania. No stranger to us here at Channel 13 SSP-TV. Tarah Toohil is here from the 116th Pennsylvania Legislative District. Tarah, how are you?
How are you? Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah, well, we had fun election night. It was a great group, and I always appreciate your input. You know, it's trying to get as much. It was a little different with Zoom, but I think it worked out pretty good, don't you?
I enjoyed it. I thought I got to speak more.
Yeah,
because once I was on the camera, you had to let me speak.
Yeah, I couldn't say cut, you know. I want to tell you, I spoke to the Better Living group last year that Time Shamrock puts on in the Mohegan Sun. And before my talk to about 500 people that Mohegan Sun, I said to them, I said, you know, I'm sorry, I wanted to buy something for every one of you, but I couldn't get it. And the lady said, what was that, Mr. Lesante? I says, a magic wand. I said, so I wish we all had that magic wand that we could just wash, and then all our problems and concerns would be eliminated. And so with that being said, don't we all wish we had that magic wand? So you've been encountering a lot of things, and I guess there's so much to talk to you about. I mean, we try to cover as much election night, but now that's one-on-one. Let's talk about this, the closing down of everything, and you know, the executive orders, etc. You know, what's your take on that?
So obviously we've had an extremely difficult time in our nation and in Pennsylvania. And when the COVID-19 crisis started, we really had a lot of deep fears about what was going to happen in this community. And because of the hard work of the community, Mary Malone with the Greater Hazleton Chamber, she worked alongside with the mayor, the county. Lehigh Valley Hospital was extremely responsive. We had daily phone calls where we went ahead and tried to just work with all members of the community that could come together on this task force. It was bipartisan, and we basically nailed out what we needed and how we were going to address it. So we prepared for overflow at the hospital. We prepared for quarantine housing. Just every part of social distancing. With Senator John Yudichak, we did communication in Spanish and English so that we could reach everyone in our community. And we came together and we worked very hard. And we've had a lot of successes. And now the hospital numbers, I mean, they never reached what we feared. We feared that we would have people dying in the street, that we would have not enough room for the bodies and the death toll. And so we are really on this end of it now, looking at this whole experience, how we prepared, and that we've had a lot of successes and a lot of positive things that we've been able to survive the COVID-19 crisis as a community.
So let's learn something from this, okay? The reason why I would assume someone reacts the way you reacted and what you had to do is because of the information you were receiving, okay?
Yes.
So we were receiving information from Fauci and all of the experts, so to speak, as to what's going to happen, what you need to do, and everyone is in Panicville, and rightly so, because you're getting this information, okay? So we find out that, you know, even though this is not a good thing, there's no question about it, we find out that it wasn't as bad, nearly as bad as what they said, okay? So now we're in a situation where, okay, you reacted and everyone did an excellent job. Now we're living with the stuff that, wait a minute, this did not happen, okay?
Right.
So now we have people who are literally suffering, losing their jobs, a lot of mental conditions, a lot of people with abuse in the homes. It's crazy, okay? Yes. And it seems that no one in Harrisburg, in the governor's office understands this. Maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm dumb, but I think that there are a lot of people, Tarah, that I see that are not going to be able to reopen again.
Right.
And this particular executive order, now that we've seen this, why is it so that we have all these executive orders? And who, in God's name, is Governor Wolf surrounding himself by?
So you're right on a lot of different levels. Our governor, I mean, he's done vetoes before, and he has more executive orders than any governor that I've heard of. So Pennsylvania really was in the most restrictive state. When you looked across the nation, small businesses were completely closed, 28% unemployment. Everyone is confined to their homes. Child abuse reports were down 50%. Just because children were not able to see people that would report it. Domestic violence is up. So many other factors. People are sick because they're afraid to go to their doctor. Doctors are closed. So what's been going on here in Pennsylvania is it's really unprecedented when you compare us to other states. And quarantine is supposed to be for people that are sick, and the executive order is supposed to be temporary. So right now in the Pennsylvania legislature, we're fighting to get back to normalcy, that you can have your livelihood, you can function as a business. Small mom and pops should be able to have their businesses. If the large big box stores are operating and have thousands of people coming in and out of stores every day, then the small mom and pops can also operate safely under CDC guidelines. So we've been fighting in the Pennsylvania House, the Republican leadership, to say we can open and we can do it safely. And that a lot of these orders, he was making executive actions in the middle of a crisis, but when you make mistakes that are hurting people's livelihoods and confining everyone to their homes where all you can do is order on Amazon, that's also not the way to live during this crisis. So we're trying to reopen and do it safely for the people of Pennsylvania.
So Tarah, what happened to this term representative? Because there are 203 representatives in the House that go back to their constituents and listen to what's happening in their neighborhoods, etc. Then you take what you have and you go and represent us, okay? So with all of the input, and it just seems, again, and not to be political, but the Republicans that are in the House always seem to be understanding what's going on, and some Democrats, I'm assuming,
yes.
Okay, because you work with Democrats. So with all the information that you bring to the House representing people, does the governor turn a blind eye to all of these requests? I mean, that's why I said, who is he surrounded with? Who's feeding him this information?
I think that there just is not a lot of practical application of what goes on in reality, say for businesses. So when they originally
ignore the will of the people.
At this point, yes.
Okay.
At this point,
so he's
yes.
ignored. To me, I mean, and here again, you're there.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Because if you're listening to me, you're listening to the person down the street, you're listening to persons, and you're hearing all of these things and trying to do the best. Remember I said the magic wand?
Right.
If you had that wand, you'd resolve. But if you're going to Harrisburg, and the governor has to listen to all of his representatives, including the Senate, and if he's turning a blind eye, then to me, the big P comes up, which is politics.
Right.
Okay? Politics is now key, as far as I'm concerned, with the governor, in turn destroying a lot of people's lives. I hope I'm 100% wrong when I make that statement.
So what you're talking about is that we're not being viewed as a co-equal branch of government.
No.
So we have the legislature, where there's the legislature, the judiciary, and the governor. So you have three branches of government, and we are not being viewed as a co-equal branch where we have a voice. So, one of the things the governor did was he had to backpedal on his closures. If you were not life-sustaining, then your business was completely closed. We have people today that are still closed, and their businesses are closed, they're not employing people, and it's grossly unfair that you cannot buy from a small mom and pop landscaping and nursery, but you can buy from Lowe's Garden Center. And from the beginning, I called multiple times to the governor's office, wrote letters about this because it was nonsensical in its application. So I think originally the purpose was correct, that you want to keep people safe and how are we going to stop the spread of COVID-19. But you cannot continue to live that way.
Yeah, but here again, when you have children, and you tell your children, I don't want you doing this because of this, and they say, okay, mommy, okay, why? And you explain why, because if you do this, this will happen. So if the governor is getting all this information, and is he coming to the House? Is he saying, look, this was done based on this, and this, and this. This is why I made this decision. Or is it just an executive order without you even knowing what information he got?
Right. So many times the executive orders, we had one Monday night pertaining to Tuesday's election. We don't know that these executive orders are coming. I guess some of the Democratic counties might have known that they were going to have election week, as opposed to we only got election day here in Luzerne County. But he's not interested really in what the voice of the House is, because we're disagreeing with him. And you speak to doctors, you speak to farmers, and they say, the healthy people are not supposed to be living in quarantine. So what we did originally, there's a reason for it, but at this point, you look at the Constitution, you look at everything that our whole United States of America is founded on, is the freedom to assemble, the freedom to be able to contract and have a business.
Getting back to what you said about the executive order Monday, if you heard Charlie McAwee on our
last night
on our, this is taped, of course, but he said that these counties were aware that the governor was going to give them a week, and they happen to be all Democratic counties. Okay, so here again, the big word politics comes in. And it's going to be a crucial couple of months, because the agenda that the Democrats have, they'll do anything possible to get rid of Trump. All right, and you'll see it. You'll have the media lying to us, which they're continuing to lie. You'll have everything. And who are we to believe? We heard Fauci in March say the masks are really not that effective, blah, 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 blah. Now it's, you got to wear the mask. And now you're hearing from doctors saying the masks are not really that good for you. Okay, so we're getting crazy with all this info. What do senior citizens do? We have people, when someone sees you without a mask, they're ready to report you. They don't even know why they want to report you.
Right.
It's crazy.
And the seniors that are out there, we've been reaching out from my office. We field lots of phone calls from the seniors, and we're trying to help still over the phone because senior citizens are the most vulnerable population. If you do contract COVID, you're at a greater likelihood to have severe health risks. So we're trying to have the seniors call us over the phone. You don't have to come down to the office and expose yourself to other people in the hallway. And also a lot of them don't have masks. Or have the hand sanitizer. So we're really trying to do the steps in the process for your rebates, your rent rebate, your property tax rebates, anything that we can help you with. We're really trying to do it over the telephone to protect our seniors.
And here again,
because there's so many things we're unsure about. Masks, no
so
masks.
Here again, if I had
surfaces, no surfaces.
Yeah, I mean, it's like nuts. If there's 1,000 people, that got COVID, and they're seniors, all right, how many of them survived? The people that did die, what were the conditions before that? So you could come out and say there were 1,000 deaths from COVID. Of 1,000 deaths, 60% of them had, pneumonia, 60% had conditions or whatever. So we have facts. We know that if you're not feeling good or if you're sickly, you're going to avoid. So that's where quarantine pays off. But a majority of people have it, never knew they had it. Okay, folks, I'm talking to Representative Tarah Toohil. It is absolutely insane. Who do you believe? Who do you not believe? It's crazy. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, 24/7 SSPTV.com. All of our shows are there. My guest, Tarah Toohil, from the 116 Pennsylvania Legislative District. So, Tarah, I want to just give you a statistic here. And we're going to have a complete show on this, probably 2 parts. We have 109,000 deaths from COVID in the United States. Okay, or is it like, well, how many so far as of 100?
I don't know the exact number,
Well,
but yeah.
well, I see and 109,000 people that supposedly. You don't know if all of them died from COVID, but let's assume.
But we peaked over the 100,000.
So these people that died, friends, I want you to listen to this. And then we're going to have a two-part show in detail of what I'm going to talk to you about, and it's going to be graphic. Beating hearts, 109,000 people have died or more from COVID, supposedly, if they're all COVID. What if I told you 345,672 beating hearts died from October 1st to January 9th? Beating hearts versus beating hearts. 345,672 beating hearts were destroyed. Abortions. But we're not talking about that. We will be talking about that in detail to show you the hypocrisy of what's happening in this world today. Getting back to you, Tara. I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's interesting, because a beating heart is a beating heart. But
and on that point, senior citizens that were at risk, we knew from the beginning that if you were in a nursing home, that you had a higher likelihood. We knew that the death rate was 60%, 70% right from the very beginning. And nothing was done about that. From the secretary, from the Department of Health, we reached out multiple times. All of the focus should have been on protecting those most vulnerable. So the first priority was to prevent hospitalizations, to prevent having so many hospitalizations that we would run out of ventilators and not be able to give medical care to people. So we wanted to slow the growth of the cases. But then the other priority right away should have been these people that live in nursing homes, live in long-term care, and if they get COVID, 60% of our deaths across the entire state were from people in long-term care and nursing homes, which are beating hearts that were not prioritized at all. At all, they were not protected, and it's a catastrophe, and it's horrendous, and it's hypocritical.
I tell my viewers, my senior citizen viewers, don't be misled because when they talk about abortions, they say, well, I'm never going to get pregnant, but you're vulnerable. And when you're unwanted, you're unwanted. And there's a whole, to me, conspiracy going on in the country. House Bill 2388. What was that?
So what we did with that legislation, we voted to reopen. It would have to be under CDC guidelines, but the barbershops, the hair salons, the car dealerships, that they would be able to open. Real estate in Pennsylvania was another bill that was vetoed. We were the only state in the nation that did not allow real estate. If you became homeless, you could not rent, you could not find a realtor, and you could not find a home. So many things that we did in Pennsylvania were really hurtful to people that are vulnerable. And also, all of those real estate agents, they're all forced to go on unemployment. They could have worked virtually, they could have worked safely, they could have had a livelihood. You can't even sell your own home as a person with your freedom to contract, to sell your house and deal with your housing issues. So really, we started to look at, it's not about like closing everything down, it's about, can you do it safely? And the focus, the lack of course correction is a real problem. When you know that you've just completely shut everything down, but yet thousands of people could go to a big grocery store, thousands of people could go to a big box store. It's completely counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense. And thousands of people went to work in Hazleton at large corporations.
This bill was vetoed, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the governor, now here again, he has his right to veto, but did he come out and say, this is the reason why I'm vetoing this bill, because this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, etc.? Did he come out and explain that?
What the governor did was, because of this pressure that we applied with this bill, he immediately started the color coding priorities, which were very confusing. You know, green does not mean go. So, I mean, red was, you know, we were all in red. And then green does not mean go. Green does not mean that you have your freedoms and normalcy. So it was like you got the coloring box out. We're missing a couple crayons. We should have had a orange crayon too, or purple or something to make it a little more clear. So
do you mean to tell me the Democrats don't, the 110 the minority Democrats don't see this? I think some Democrats have seen this, but they have not seen the suffering that's going on in the state of, are there areas immune to this?
No, so we've had a lot of Democrats that have voted with us, that voted for that legislation to reopen safely. And then we've really come together. But then when it was time for a veto override, that's a big thing to do against your governor in your party.
Then you're playing party lines. And then here again, politics comes in versus the welfare of the state of Pennsylvania, okay? And here again, prior to this, and these are facts, and people, again, facts are ugly things sometimes. We had the greatest economy going, the lowest unemployment ever. More African-American people working ever. More Hispanic people working ever, bringing pride back into their homes that they could work, okay? More women working, more women getting raises. The retirements up higher, okay? They want to do away with this particular thing. So here's the thing. Create chaos in the country as much as you can. Bring the economy down as much as you can. Bring morale down as much as you can, and then blame it on the President of the United States, okay?
So
this is absolutely insane, Tara.
Well, we knew going into, so there was a lot of bipartisan work. Like if you just take the State House, we had a lot of bipartisan work in the fall, in 2019. But you could tell that there was this growing acrimony, or that, you know, that it was not going to be a pleasant year because, you know, just how certain people feel about, you know, parties, how they feel about the presidency, and that there's so much control and power and trying to get back that power. And it's with underlying groups like people that have been in power in Washington, D.C. for 50 years.
And that's what he's doing.
That's what you're up against.
Yeah, and he's cleaning them out. And as he's cleaning the swamp out, you're having this big resentment from George Soros and all the other people. I'm talking to Tarah Toohil, folks. Interesting stuff, isn't it? We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. My guest, Tarah Toohil, Representative Tarah Toohil. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. 109,000 people died from, supposedly all from COVID. And that's so far 345,672 bleeding hearts died from only October to January 9th. 345,672 bleeding hearts were destroyed. We don't hear too much about that, abortions. Tara, you have a current bill going on. What's the current bill about?
So I have a piece of legislation to protect workers, and specifically workers in the Hazleton area. We have a lot of industrial jobs where thousands of people work in the same large workforce, and we've had a lot of industrial spread. Recently, they're studying in CDC and in government, they're looking at stadiums and the spread when you're sitting arm to arm with people, the close proximity, and having thousands of people in a room. And that goes on here in our workplaces. So it's an industrial reporting bill. So the companies would have to disclose the number to the Department of Health, rather than the Department of Health only tracking cases in nursing homes. This would add to that tracking in case we would have another peak or another wave of COVID-19, that we're going to be able to address it in a better way here in the greater Hazleton area and across the state.
Two things. Two doctors. One doctor tells you salt is good for you. The other doctor tells you salt is not good for you. Both doctors you respect. Your dilemma. It boils down to, how are you feeling? People say the mask good for you. People say the mask not good for you. Who do you believe? This is the insanity that we're dealing with in the country, and no wonder why people are going nuts. Tarah, our time's run up. I appreciate you coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And we want to work harder in government that we are better prepared. Everyone always said we were going to have a virus come and it was going to be this terrible virus that would wipe people out. And we just were not prepared. We didn't even have the data and the information and the science.
Watch my show that I did with Ned Doherty. I highly recommend everyone to go watch that show on our website, the show with Ned Doherty, folks. You'll find that when you listen to that show now and see what's happening currently with certain people, he was right on target. We'll be back right. Excuse me. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.